Sister who falsely accused of SA her now wants back in my life, years later. This whole mess started about 7 years ago. Back then, I was 15, and so was my biological sister. We were always at each other's throats over the smallest, most petty things. Our arguments could start over nothing and explode into huge fights because we just didn't click. At that time, my dad was married to his third wife, who brought along 3 daughters of her own from previous relationships. So there I was, suddenly with 4 sisters, 1 biological and 3 stepsisters. Our family was a military one, and we were stationed in Japan that summer, right before the school year was about to start. Things at home were pretty tense because of all the constant bickering among us teens. One day our parents sat us down and dropped a bombshell. They were fed up with the fighting. They told us 3 teenagers, me, my biological sister, and one of my stepsisters, that because of the constant clashes, one of us would have to go back to the States to live with other family members. After some discussions, they decided it would be my biological sister who'd go back to live with our biological mom while the rest of us stayed in Japan. I was about to start 12th grade, my stepsister was going into 10th, and my biological sister was supposed to start her freshman year of high school a few months later. But then, out of nowhere, I was called into my parents' room for a serious talk. To my complete shock, they told me that my biological sister had accused me of saying something really inappropriate to her. A claim she said was rooted in our childhood. My parents pressed me for details, trying to understand what she could be talking about. The only thing I could think of was this one time when I was 11. I had repeated some inappropriate stuff in front of her that I'd stumbled upon on the internet, not really understanding what it meant at the time. I got in trouble for it back then, and definitely learned my lesson. As we talked it through, it came out that my biological sister had a history of lying. She'd been caught in her lies multiple times before, and my parents and my 3 younger stepsisters all knew about her tendency to stretch the truth. Despite this, my parents decided to take her latest claims seriously. They told me that because of the accusation, I wasn't allowed to babysit my 2 youngest siblings, who were still in elementary school, and that I had to always be accompanied by my teenage stepsister or an adult when they were around. I was frustrated and called them out for believing someone they knew could be a pathological liar. Their response was that they didn't really believe her, but they had to treat the accusation with seriousness, just in case. I shot back, telling them that by doing so, they were only giving her more ammunition to continue her behavior. This whole situation led to a lot of tension, and eventually, I ended up being shunned by most of my family, both on my mom's and dad's side. The only family members who didn't turn their backs on me were an aunt, an uncle, and a few cousins. 2 years after all that drama with my sister and my family choosing sides, things took a big turn in my life. I was just about to start my military career, something I'd been preparing for with the support of my aunt and uncle, the only relatives who hadn't believed the accusations my sister made against me. Just as I was gearing up for this new chapter, I got a sudden call from my mom that stopped me in my tracks. She told me my sister was in the hospital. She had tried to harm herself. I was shocked, to say the least, and a bit confused about why my mom was telling me, considering she knew all too well how strained things were between me and my sister. My mom explained that in the aftermath of the incident, as my sister was recovering, she confessed. She admitted that she had made up the entire story about me, the one that turned my family against me. My mom was quick to apologize, saying that my sister had been jealous and thought I seemed too happy, and that maybe making me look bad would bring her some attention or sympathy. At that moment, I didn't really know what to feel. I accepted my mom's apology because what else could I do? But it didn't erase the years of pain and isolation I'd endured because of that lie. Fast forward to now, I'm 25, and I've moved on with my life. I've served almost 6 years in the military, gaining a new sense of discipline and pride in my achievements. But despite the apologies from most of my family, who now realize they were wrong to believe my sister, I still haven't forgiven her. And honestly, I don't plan to. Every now and then, the topic comes up again. My family keeps nudging me to sit down with my sister, to talk things out and maybe mend the rift between us. They say things like, "She's your only real sibling," trying to guilt me into making amends. But every time I refuse. I always say the same thing. I can love her as my sister from a distance, but I don't have to like her as a person. Not after everything. Recently, she's even gone as far as to say she'd be willing to patch things up if I apologize to her first. Yeah, right. When I heard that, I just laughed. Apologize for what? For being the victim of her lie? No way, that's not happening. Meanwhile, I've maintained a great relationship with my 3 younger stepsisters. They never doubted me, and they still see me as their big brother, no strings attached. I'm even an uncle now to my sister's new son. Some people in my family argue that I should sit down with her for the sake of family unity, that blood is thicker than water and all that. But after what she did, how seriously she tried to mess up my life, I just don't see why I should. So, am I the jerk here for not wanting to reconcile with my sister after she falsely accused me of something so serious, something that could have ruined my life? That's the question I keep tossing around. But deep down, I feel like I've made the right decision for my peace of mind. Reconciliation doesn't always mean having to accept someone back into your life. Sometimes it just means moving on and letting go, even if others don't quite understand it. Now, for the top comments before the update, not the whole 100%. This man was falsely accused of something terrible. And we have seen so many stories like this on this channel before, or that derails or ruins a person's life, and then the other person isn't heard out or even believed. They're just like, oh, this one person said this, and we're not even going to listen to your side of the story. I don't know if OP tried to explain himself to the other side, the other family members. I'm going to assume he did, maybe. But if he doesn't want to talk to his biological sister, then good riddance. Get rid of her. But if he did, and let's just say if I was in his situation, and if I did, I would need proof that she got some help about the pathological liar stuff. I mean, like, all right, after you go to a shrink or a psychiatrist or a freaking Walgreens and get some pills, then maybe we can talk. But I need to know you are a better person before I have you back in my life. Update 1. A couple of weeks ago, I got a call from my aunt, the one person in my family who always stood by me no matter what. She sounded like she had something serious on her mind and needed to talk immediately. We met up at a little coffee shop halfway between our houses, a quiet place where we could talk without interruptions. After we sat down with our coffees, she pulled out a stack of old letters and documents that looked like they'd been hidden away for decades. These weren't just any old family letters. These were the kind that change everything you thought you knew about your life. According to these letters, my dad had a whole other life before he met my mom, one that included another child, my sister. Yep, turns out the sister who turned my life upside down isn't even my full sister, but a half-sister. My dad had a brief relationship before he met my mom, and well, that's where my sister comes from. My aunt had stumbled upon this while she was cleaning out some old family stuff. She even had a paternity test taken years ago by my dad to prove it, tucked away with the letters. Now, just processing that my sister and I weren't fully related was a lot, but what came next was even more startling. Feeling the weight of this new identity and probably a lot of confusion herself, my sister decided that now was the time to reach out and try to mend the bridge she'd burned down years ago. She called me out of nowhere, tears in her voice, apologizing for the past and talking about how she felt disconnected from everything and thought reconnecting with me might give her some sense of belonging. As if that wasn't enough to deal with, she also dropped the news that she was planning to move back to the States. Right into my city, no less. Her plan? She hoped we could start fresh, try to be the siblings we never really were, explore what this half-sibling relationship could mean. And just when I thought I'd heard it all, my parents, well, my mom and the man I've always called Dad, got involved. They were surprisingly supportive of this idea of a family reunion, seeing it as a chance for everyone to heal and come together. They even started planning a welcome back party for her as if we were just going to pick up where a normal family might, without all the years of turmoil between us. So, now I'm sitting here, trying to figure out my next move. My whole family seems to have jumped on this bandwagon, encouraging me to open my heart and home to a sister who nearly destroyed my life. They talk about forgiveness and second chances like they're just everyday commodities that I should hand out freely. I've spent countless nights thinking over everything. Our childhood fights, the devastating accusations, the years of being treated like an outcast by my own family, and now this revelation that we're only half-siblings. It's a lot to take in, and I keep flipping back and forth on what to do. On one hand, there's a part of me that wonders if there's a chance this could actually be a good thing. Maybe she's changed. Maybe understanding more about her own past has given her a new perspective on things. Could this be an opportunity for me to put to rest some of the hurt and anger that's been simmering in the back of my mind for years? But then there's the other side. The side that remembers every harsh word, every family gathering I was pushed out of, every night I felt alone even when I was surrounded by people who were supposed to love me. How do you just forget all that? How do you trust someone who's betrayed you so deeply? Everyone keeps telling me that family is important, that these connections we have are supposed to be lifelong and unbreakable. But isn't trust important too? Isn't it essential to feel safe and respected in your relationships? This whole situation feels like I'm standing at a crossroads, with each path leading to a completely different kind of future. If I choose to meet her, to really try and rebuild something, I'm opening myself up to potentially more pain. but I'm also giving us both a shot at something resembling a normal relationship, whatever that may look like now. If I decide against it, if I choose to keep my distance and maintain the peace I finally started to find in my life, then what? Will I always wonder what could have been? Will my family ever really understand why I can't just let it go and move on? These are the questions that keep me up at night, the ones that no amount of advice seems to answer completely. It's not just about whether I'm right or wrong and wanting to keep my distance. It's about what I need to be okay, to be more than just okay. So here I am sharing this with you all. Not because I have the answers, but because sometimes just telling your story, just putting it out there, can help you see things a little clearer. Or at least that's what I'm hoping. Thanks for sticking through this long update. Any thoughts or advice would be greatly appreciated because honestly, this is one of those times I could use all the perspective I can get. Update 2. After discovering the truth about my sister's paternity and her sudden push to reconcile, I've been in a real bind. Before I could even fully process everything and decide on my next steps, my family took it upon themselves to force the issue in a way that was both surprising and frustrating. The incident that kicked everything off was what was supposed to be a simple family dinner at my parents' house. I was under the impression it was just a casual gathering, a chance to catch up and enjoy some good food. However, as soon as I walked through the door, I realized I'd been duped. The house was decked out with decorations, and there was an air of celebration that seemed completely disproportionate to a regular family meetup. It turned out to be the welcome back party for my half-sister, one that my parents had meticulously planned without my knowledge, hoping to corner me into a reunion. As the evening unfolded, my sister took center stage, soaking in the attention as the prodigal daughter making her return. The effort my parents put into the event was staggering. They prepared her favorite dishes, decorated the house with photos of her throughout the years, and there was even a cake welcoming her back. The level of detail made it clear. They were fully invested in this narrative of reconciliation and family unity. During the party, my sister gave what was supposed to be an apology speech. However, rather than expressing genuine remorse or acknowledging the pain her lies caused, she spun a story that seemed more self-serving than sincere. She talked about her struggles, her journey of self-discovery, and how she realized the importance of family. But the way she told it, you'd think we were both to blame for our past issues. The speech seemed crafted to garner sympathy rather than pave the way for true reconciliation. Following her speech, the expectation was set. My parents, along with everyone else, looked to me to make the next move, to rise and warmly accept her back into my life as if nothing had happened. When I hesitated, not swept up in the moment like they hoped, the mood shifted palpably. My mother pulled me aside, her tone a mix of disappointment and frustration. She accused me of being stubborn, of holding on to past grievances at the expense of family harmony. She even hinted that my reluctance was tarnishing the family's reputation, as if my primary concern should be how we're perceived by outsiders. In the days following the party, my sister didn't waste any time reestablishing herself in the city. She reached out to family friends, shared her version of events, and positioned herself as the aggrieved party eager to mend broken ties. Her narrative conveniently glossed over the details of her deception, focusing instead on her growth and maturity. Moreover, she began making moves to integrate herself into my daily life. I heard from friends that she asked about joining the gym I frequent, inquired about job openings at my workplace, and even showed up at a community event she knew I'd attend. It felt like she was not only trying to reconnect, but also to embed herself in every facet of my life, making it impossible for me to maintain the distance I needed. My parents supported her every step of the way. They encouraged her efforts to integrate, pressured me to support her new beginning, and continuously framed it as my duty to help her adjust. Their backing of her actions added another layer of pressure, making it clear that they were more interested in preserving appearances and playing happy families than addressing the underlying issues at hand. Now, I find myself in a position where I have to constantly defend my boundaries against not just my sister's intrusions, but also my parents' expectations. They seem to have formed a united front, pushing for a picture-perfect family reunion without regard for the feelings and reservations I've expressed. The whole scenario has left me exhausted and a bit disillusioned. Handling their expectations, the public narrative my sister is crafting, and my own emotions about the situation is a lot to juggle. It's become painfully clear that their understanding of family loyalty is skewed, shaped more by their desires and how they wish to appear to others than by a genuine concern for what's healthy and healing for everyone involved. As I try to figure out how to deal with this ongoing drama, I'm left questioning a lot about family ties, forgiveness, and how to protect my own mental health in the face of such overwhelming pressure. It's a challenging road ahead, and I'm trying to navigate it with as much grace and firmness as I can muster. So here I am, sharing this not just to update you, but to maybe find some clarity through putting it all into words. If anyone has been through something similar, or has any wisdom on dealing with family who only seem to take and never truly consider your well-being, I'm all ears. Thanks for sticking through this lengthy update. I guess sometimes just spelling out the situation can help you see what you need to do, even if it's just to stand your ground. Update 3. Well, here we are again, deep in the throes of family complexities that seem to have no end. If you've been following along, you know my situation with my half-sister has been fraught with tension and manipulation. But the recent developments have turned this into not just a private struggle, but a public family spectacle. So buckle up. This update is a long one. Since the last orchestrated welcome back party for my half-sister, where my parents expected me to embrace her with open arms despite a history of deceit, the family dynamics have spun off in directions that I never anticipated. My attempts to maintain a healthy distance have been met with everything from disbelief to outright hostility from various family members. The pressure has not just remained, but intensified, evolving into a relentless campaign to force reconciliation. Firstly, my half-sister's tactics have escalated from simply infringing on my personal spaces to attempting to integrate herself into my social circle. She's reached out to my closest friends under the guise of trying to understand my current life better and, purportedly, to make amends. This puts me in an incredibly awkward position, forcing me to explain the situation to my friends and ask them to maintain a delicate balance between politeness and loyalty, which is a lot to ask. Additionally, her narrative about seeking redemption and family unity has curiously found a receptive audience among some extended family members and family friends. At a recent family gathering, a reunion I attended only because of my parents' insistence, she was once again the center of attention. She spun stories of her personal growth and her intentions to mend relationships, effectively painting herself as a victim of circumstances trying to right her wrongs. While some of our relatives have been swayed by her performance, viewing her actions as genuine attempts at reconciliation, others have quietly reached out to me, sharing their skepticism and discomfort with how she's manipulating her way back into the family's good graces. This brings me to the orchestrated lunch last week, set up by my parents under the pretense of a casual family meal. It turned out to be a strategic move to corner me into publicly accepting my sister's apology. The lunch was an exercise in tension, with my parents making pointed comments about the importance of forgiveness and how family should always come first. My sister delivered a well-rehearsed apology, laced with just enough emotion to seem sincere, while subtly justifying her past behaviors as mere misunderstandings caused by her internal turmoil. Following this, I've observed a worrying trend where my parents are increasingly framing me as the one responsible for maintaining family unity. They've begun shifting responsibilities onto me, tasks and roles that were never mine, suggesting through their actions that accepting my sister unconditionally is part of my duty. For instance, they now often communicate family plans and decisions through her, effectively sidelining me in processes where I was once central, perhaps in hopes that this will force me to engage with her more directly. This manipulation extends beyond just logistical arrangements. It touches on emotional responsibilities as well. My parents have started using every opportunity to highlight how much happier the family would be if I just let go of the past. They recount stories of other families who overcame similar issues through forgiveness, implying that my inability to forgive is what's keeping our family from achieving this ideal state of harmony. These maneuvers have not only put a strain on my relationship with my parents, but have also started affecting my interactions with other family members. The division is palpable. Some relatives are tired of the ongoing drama and wish to stay out of it, while others feel compelled to take sides, often based on the skewed narratives being presented by my sister and backed by my parents. Navigating these gatherings has become a tightrope walk of maintaining my dignity and asserting my boundaries without causing a full-blown family rift. It's a delicate balance, one that I'm constantly adjusting as the dynamics evolve. The emotional toll is significant. Every family interaction leaves me drained, questioning whether it's even possible to find a middle ground. So, here I am, caught in a web of expectations, manipulations, and my own quest for peace. This situation has morphed into more than just a sibling rivalry or a personal feud. It's a reflection of a deeply unhealthy family dynamic that values appearances and forced reconciliations over genuine understanding and respect. As I share this latest chapter, I do so not just to keep you updated, but to sort through my own thoughts and to perhaps find clarity in this chaos. Dealing with such deep-seated family issues is challenging, and I find myself often pondering the same questions. How do you maintain peace without compromising your principles? How do you protect your mental health when the very people who should be your support system are the sources of stress? I welcome any advice on managing these complex family dynamics, especially from those who have navigated similar stormy waters. How do you handle family members who use emotional blackmail to sway you? How do you stay true to yourself when being pressured to conform to familial expectations that go against your own values? Thank you for sticking through this long update. Your insights and support have been invaluable and continue to be a source of strength as I navigate these turbulent times. Update 4. Hey everyone, back with more from the ongoing drama in my family. Just when I thought I had a handle on things, my half-sister took it to a whole new level. This time, she brought our personal mess right into my workplace, and let me tell you, it was not pretty. So last week, out of nowhere, my sister shows up at my job. No heads up, no nothing. She just appeared during my lunch break, tears and all, ready to put on a show. This wasn't just a quick hello or a casual drop by to see where I work. Nope. She came with the full intention of dragging me into a so-called urgent family matter right there in front of my colleagues. The timing couldn't have been worse. I was just stepping out of a morning packed with back-to-back meetings, and there she was in the middle of the office lobby crying and making a scene. Everyone was watching, and I mean everyone, from my coworkers to my boss, who just happened to walk by. Awkward doesn't even start to cover it. She started going off about how she felt ignored, and that coming to my job was the only way she could make sure I'd listen. She said she felt ostracized by me and was desperate to fix things. Honestly, it felt like she was more interested in making sure everyone saw how much she was suffering than actually talking to me about whatever the issue was. I had to do something fast. I managed to keep my cool, suggested we talk later in a more appropriate setting, and somehow got her to leave. But the damage was done. The whispers started almost immediately, and I had some explaining to do with my boss, which was just great. That evening, my phone blew up with texts from my parents telling me they were disappointed in how I handled things. According to them, my sister's dramatic visit was just her way of trying to reach out, and I should have been more understanding. They said I was making the family look bad and that I needed to be more accommodating of her feelings. This whole mess made one thing crystal clear. My parents still don't get it. They don't see how these stunts are crossing major lines or how they keep putting me in impossible situations. They're so wrapped up in this idea of us all being one big happy family again that they ignore how their actions, and hers, are actually tearing us further apart. After this debacle, I've been thinking a lot about how to handle things moving forward. My work is my sanctuary. It's where I get to focus on what I'm good at without any family drama dragging me down. Having that space violated has really shaken me, and I'm not about to let it happen again. I've started to wonder if it's time for more drastic measures, like seriously limiting my communication with my sister, and maybe even my parents if they keep this up. I hate the thought of cutting ties or creating more distance, but I've got to protect my peace and my professional reputation. In the midst of all this, some of my cousins have reached out. A few are totally on my side, offering to talk some sense into my sister and parents, while others are pushing the same old tune about family and forgiveness. It's a mixed bag, but it's good to know not everyone is buying into my sister's narrative. So here I am, trying to figure out where to go from here. I'm considering all options, even the ones I'd rather not, like possibly getting a mediator involved or going to family counseling. Maybe it's the only way to get some neutral ground in this whole mess. Anyway, thanks for sticking through this update. If you've been through something like this, or have any advice on handling over-the-top family drama, especially when it spills over into other areas of your life, I'm all ears. How do you keep your cool and set boundaries that actually stick? How do you deal with family who just don't respect your space? Your thoughts and support mean a lot. Here's hoping the next update is a bit less dramatic, but who knows at this point? Update 5. Hello again, everyone. It feels like it's been a marathon getting to this point, but I finally have some updates that might signify a turning point, or at least a brief respite, in the ongoing drama with my family. Grab a cup of coffee because this is a lengthy one. After the whole fiasco of my half-sister showing up at my workplace, I took some time to really think about how I wanted to proceed. The incident not only crossed a major line, but also made it painfully clear that without some serious boundaries, this cycle of intrusion and emotional manipulation from my family would just keep repeating itself. I decided the first step needed to be a frank conversation with my parents. I set up a meeting with them, choosing a neutral location to help keep the atmosphere as calm as possible. I prepared extensively for this discussion, jotting down key points I needed to cover, anticipating their objections, and even practicing responses to keep the conversation on track. Sitting down with them was tense at first. I started by expressing how overwhelmed and disrespected I felt by the constant pressure to reconcile with my sister under terms that disregarded my feelings. I explained in detail how the drama was not only affecting my personal life, but had started seeping into my professional life as well, which was unacceptable. To my surprise, my dad seemed to take in what I was saying. He admitted that their desire to see the family united had blinded them to the impact their actions were having on me. He seemed genuinely remorseful, which gave me a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, we could find a way forward that respected everyone's needs. My mom was tougher to crack. She held on to her belief that family should stick together no matter what, arguing that forgiveness was a virtue that shouldn't be so easily dismissed. It took a lot of back and forth, but I think she at least began to understand that her approach could potentially cause permanent rifts if not adjusted. We discussed potential solutions and boundaries that could help us move forward. We agreed that any future interactions with my sister would happen on my terms and my timeline. My parents promised they would respect my space and would convey these boundaries to my sister, emphasizing the need for her to respect them as well if there was to be any hope of reconciliation. Feeling somewhat hopeful but still cautious, I left the meeting with a plan to reach out to my sister directly. I needed her to hear from me exactly what I was comfortable with and what I wasn't. I crafted a message to her, explaining that while I was open to a future where we could perhaps rebuild some form of relationship, it would take time and a genuine effort on her part to respect my boundaries and work on rebuilding trust. Since sending that message, there's been a noticeable pullback from her. It seems she's finally starting to understand that her previous tactics were only pushing me further away. My parents have also kept their word so far. They've stopped bringing her up in every conversation and have given me the space I asked for. It's a small victory, but in the context of the last few months, it feels significant. Reflecting on everything that's happened, I've learned a lot about the importance of setting and maintaining boundaries, especially with family. It's so easy to fall into old patterns, to let familial obligations cloud your judgment about what's best for your own mental health. But standing firm in your needs and your rights as an individual is crucial, even when it's uncomfortable. I'm cautiously optimistic about the future. I know better than to think that everything is resolved or that there won't be more challenges ahead. Family dynamics are complex and can change as quickly as the weather, but I feel better equipped to handle whatever comes next, knowing that I've laid a foundation of clear communication and set boundaries that are essential for my well-being. Thank you all for sticking with me through these updates, for offering your insights and support. It's been an invaluable part of this journey, a reminder that I'm not alone in facing these kinds of challenges. If there's one thing I've taken away from all this, it's that sometimes the hardest conversations are the most necessary ones, and they can lead to real change if approached with honesty and a willingness to listen. Here's hoping that the next chapters in my life are a bit quieter and more peaceful. But no matter what, I now feel more confident in my ability to handle family complexities with a stronger, clearer voice. Cheers to finding peace, however you can.